Ever wonder why diseases have those names? Why is diabetes called diabetes? Why is cancer, malaria, measles, hysteria have those names? Is it all random?
No.
There's a reason. There's an etymology of disease. So learn the origin of the word and you get an insight into the disease itself. Stay tuned so you can be wise to the words. Take diabetes for an example, a condition that I myself am struggling with, but thankfully overcoming. Diabetes is a chronic illness where the body struggles to regulate blood sugar levels, either because the body doesn't produce enough insulin or it doesn't use the insulin effectively or efficiently. The word diabetes traces back to a 2nd century physician, Aretius the Cappadocian, who took it from a Greek word diabinein, meaning to pass through. The term breaks down to dia, through, and binein, to go, reflecting the excessive urination that this illness causes, to go pee. It used to be called pissing evil, reflecting how the body flushes out the sugar-laden urine. Nowadays, diabetes is usually called diabetes mellitus or mellitus, depends how you pronounce it, where mellitus comes from the Latin mel, which means honey. Mellitus means sweeten with honey or honey sweet. So when I say, "What's up, sweet pea?" it's not a term of endearment. Cancer is Latin for crab. Hippocrates used the Greek word karkinos, likely due to the fact that tumors spread out like crab legs. Later, the Roman physician Celsus explicitly used this imagery to reinforce this idea of crab legs spreading. He wrote, "It spreads its claws in all directions," thus embedding this term forever in medical terminology. That's why the constellation Cancer looks like a crab. The word malaria comes from the Italian phrase mala aria, or bad air. It originated from the historical belief that people had that breathing in bad air or foul-smelling air, usually around marshes and swamps, caused this disease. It wasn't until the 19th century that the true cause of this disease was discovered, namely parasites transmitted through infected mosquitoes. Despite this scientific breakthrough, the name malaria stuck. Bad air.
Whew. That air stinks.
Measles, which is something that's all over the news these days, comes from the Middle Dutch measel, meaning blemish or spot, which perfectly describes the red rash that occurs during infection. And in another fun linguistic twist, the word measly, which means contemptibly few or little, because it describes the little red dots. If you're learning anything from this video, please consider hitting the like button. It seems like a little thing, but hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting, really feeds the YouTube algorithm, and it really helps the channel. YouTube will spread this video to more and more people, because if I can infect you with the love of words and word origins, then eventually it'll spread
all over the world like a pandemic. I will take over entire cities
And countries and the whole world.
Hey, maybe I'm sick. Maybe I'm sick. It's hysteria or something. I don't know what's going on here. Influenza, or the flu. The word influenza is from the Italian word influenza, meaning influence. It was used in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance by people who believed that epidemics were triggered by the celestial bodies, such as planets and stars, and their influence on people's health. It traces back to the Latin influere, to flow into. The Latin word itself, influere, suggests this idea of an external force flowing into us and affecting our actions, our health, our very life. Influenza, the flu. Doc, I don't feel so good. What's wrong with me? Well, it's my expert medical opinion that you have the flu. Well, I would like a second opinion on that. Okay, you're ugly also. How dare you? Never. The term plague comes from the Latin plaga, which means strike or blow, which is a fitting description of the devastating effect the various plagues have had on human population throughout history. Avoid this one like the plague.
And then I will strike him until he can be struck no more.
Hysteria. Hysteria comes from the Greek hystera, meaning womb. The term reflects the ancient and entirely false belief that erratic emotions and behaviors in women were caused by a wandering uterus, which is an outright filthy lie propagated by the patriarchy. This idea, known as hysterical suffocation or hysterokatoka, dates back to Hippocratic medicine, where it was thought that the uterus could move around the body, causing symptoms like anxiety, fainting, and emotional outbursts. Emotional outbursts that never happens. Hysteria. From hystera, womb.
Could we be hysterical? Maybe, but not right now.
Amnesia. Amnesia comes from the Greek word which means without, amnesis, meaning memory. So literally, without memory. So it perfectly describes the condition when a person can't remember information, past events, their own name, their own life, or recognize familiar people. Amnesia, without memory.
Well, how's our amnesia patient this morning?
I don't know. I haven't been feeling like myself lately.
Cholera, or the Greek cholera, which goes back to the Greek word chole, which means bile. The ancient Greeks, with their humoral theory, were all about balancing the 4 humors of the body: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. When someone was hit with explosive diarrhea and vomiting, they figured it was the bile gone wild. It was literally flowing out. Cholera is a severe bacterial infection caused by Vibrio cholerae, cholera, which ultimately means bile. Mumps. Mumps has a quirky origin that's all about the face you make when you get it. The word likely comes from the old word mump, which means to grimace. Picture someone wincing and mumbling with a swollen jaw and face, and that's what happens. The mumps virus hits your salivary glands hard, making it hard to swallow and giving you that puffy look. Grimace. Not this grimace, but this one. The mumps. Tuberculosis, or TB, comes from the Latin tuberculum, meaning small swelling or nodule, which describe the characteristic lumps that form in the lungs of those infected. The suffix osis always indicates a condition or a disease, and therefore tuberculosis literally means the disease or condition of small swellings. Before the bacterial cause of this disease was discovered, it was known as consumption due to the way that it seemed to consume the body with severe weight loss and weakness. Polio, short for poliomyelitis, comes from the 2 Greek words polio, gray, and myelitis, which means marrow, pointing to the fact that this disease affects the gray matter, as it were, of the spine. The virus targets this area of the spine, often leading to paralysis because it disrupts the nerve signals. Polio, gray marrow. Marco, polio. It's polio, not polo. Epilepsy. Epilepsy comes from the Greek word epilepsis, which means seizure or attack, but itself is derived from the Greek word epilabane, which means to take hold of, which perfectly reflects the sudden nature of these epileptic seizures. In ancient times, this disease was called the sacred disease because it was believed to have supernatural causes. What was taking hold of you? Or who? Spirit? Some external force? The devil? Today, it's understood as a neurological disorder caused by abnormal brain activity, epilepsy, to take hold of. Rabies. Rabies comes from the Latin rabere, which means to rage and to be mad, which totally gets the wild, aggressive way that infected animals behave.
I came out into the front yard and the dogs were across the road. And as soon as they saw me, they came bounding over.
Diphtheria. Diphtheria comes from the Greek diphthera, which means leather or hide. It's named that because of the thick, leathery gunk that builds up in the back of the throat of someone infected, making it super hard to breathe.
Doctor, I think I have diphtheria. It has nothing to do with the 5 packs of cigarettes I smoke a day. No, nothing to do with that at all. Diphtheria.
Eczema. Eczema comes from the Greek word eczema, which ties back to the Greek word exame, which means to boil over. Ek, out, and zame, to boil. It's a good description for how eczema makes the skin look all red, inflamed, and blistered, almost like it's bubbling up or oozing. kind of like boiling water. The name eczema has been in medical literature forever, back to the ancient Greeks, obviously. But it's really a catch-all phrase for a lot of skin disorders. Tetanus. Tetanus comes from the Greek word tetanos, which means stretched or tension, which perfectly describes the intense muscle spasms it causes. The disease stems from a toxin produced by the bacterium Clostridium tetani, often entering through wounds, locking muscles in painful contractions. Historically, it was known and dreaded as lockjaw, tetanus, tetanos, stretched tension. Dysentery comes from the two Greek words dys, meaning bad, and enteron, intestine, so it literally means bad bowels. The term describes severe diarrhea with mucus and blood, often caused by an infection. Dysentery. Bad bowels, literally. Leprosy. Leprosy comes from the Greek lepra, which means scaly or peeled. This perfectly describes the skin symptoms of this disease, which causes thickening, scaling, and ulceration of the skin. Leprosy. Scaly. Now you're wise to the words. Thanks for watching, but don't forget to spread the disease of love of word origins with everyone you meet. Like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Sneeze this channel all over everyone you meet.
Wise to the words. Wise to the words.
It will spread. It'll spread everywhere.
Do buddy do.